Okay, hello friends, this is Yusuf here. Welcome to our interesting video about RPGLE. So today, this video, we're going to talk about how can we create a post web service in RPGLE. Okay, so as I already told you, there is a playlist in my channel called Web Development in AS400, which is already covered some basics to advanced stuffs. Okay, so to understand this video particularly, you may want to look into the first three videos. Okay, so I will assume that you already know the basics of what is the how to create the RPGLE as a web service and how can we use our default Apache HTTP server and those things. If not, you can go through these three videos. I'll give the link to the whole playlist in the description, and I will be also adding this video in the same playlist. Okay, now we're gonna get started. So here the basics is something like this, right? So as we already know, our IBMi AS400 server is already having a default Apache HTTP server from v5r4 itself. Okay, so how do you verify that? Basically, if you go to work active job SBS q http svr, you will come to know whether your server is running or not. If suppose your Apache default server is not running, then what we have to do, str tcp svr take a 4, and here you can give star http enter, and in the server instance you can give apache dft shift f2, you will get the command. Okay, so if you use this command, your this instance will be started. Okay, fine. Once it is started, basically your IBMi AS400 can able to communicate to the internet through port 80. So if you want to verify that, basically you can take your IP of the server, and if you go to the browser and put the IP, you will be able to see the home page of the Apache HTTP server. Okay, so these things I already explained in the videos, you can go through it. Now we are going to start writing program. Since for the benefit of beginners also, I'm going to start the program from scratch, which means from the clean slate, and then I'm going to explain you step by step. Okay, so now we have just seen about this Apache HTTP server, and then the next important configuration file is httpd.config. So this file will be available in your www apache dft config, and then this folder. Okay, so now the question is how can we make our program, which is your RPGLE program, to be executed, okay, from the web. Okay, ideally if you take any web services, right, so they will say something like endpoint. So endpoint is nothing but a URL which you can invoke, which will actually execute some code in the server. So normally the endpoint will look something like this, HTTP. Okay, then there will be the IP or the host. Okay, whatever. Okay, maybe we'll put host. Okay, then optionally there could be some port if needed. Then there will be some path. Then you will get some resource. Okay, resource. Okay, so this normally they will say there's a get method, or it could be post method, like that. Okay, now if you run this thing in the browser is default is get method. Okay, now I'm going to just create one program which is going to act as a get request, so that if I execute the URL from the browser, it will call the RPGLE program and give some response. Okay, to make this happen, we need this script alias match. So what is this script alias match? Basically, it's a way of telling your Apache HTTP server that if at all your request URL is having the term /RPGLE, okay, if you can give any name you want, that's not a big deal. Then after that, whatever is coming next, right, that will be my program name. Okay, you have to call this particular program name from this library. Okay, this is the configuration. So whatever is there in this parenthesis will be substituted to this $1, so that in that program, if it is available in my library, it will be called. Okay, and this is a standard template we have to use to make sure that we are allowing the access for the library. Okay, if you have done that right, then we'll go to the next step, which is writing code. So basically, this is the code we are going to write. It will not look much. Okay, let me explain this to you. So if you want to simplify this, right, what we are going to do, we are going to write this thing called hello world from RPGLE to the browser. Okay, and for that we need one method called write to web. So write to web here is my own procedure name, but basically this procedure is taken or executed on behalf of this particular external procedure, which is there in a system service program. But what I have done, right, to make it simple, I made that service program, okay, binded into one binding directory. So if you take this guy, if you go to the server, display bnddir, okay, what you will see that only one service program, okay. So this service program is already available in your IBMi server. In the library q http svr, the object is like this, okay. You just need to create one binding directory and add this service program into that, so that it will be easy for us to compile. Okay, so what we have done, simply that particular procedure takes three arguments, okay. First is actually the data which you want to write to the browser. Second, the length of the data, and third is actually error code, okay, which is if there are any errors, it will come into the particular variable. And if you look into that, right, basically this error ds is actually the third one. This is representing the same thing, okay. So after that we have two variables, one for data which is holding our data to write, and we have one crlf. So crlf stands for carriage return line feed, okay. Because in the web standard, right, when the server or the responding to the client, it has to give the http response. The http response should be have some proper template. So template in the sense here, each response should have a proper content type, okay. That's why we are setting the content type as a first line of our response, okay, and then we need to give to enter, okay. That's what the crlf stands for, okay. After that we are sending the data whatever we want, okay. Now we are going to write this in the server and then see what happens, okay. Let me open a new program, ws2 rpgle, okay. So shift F7 and I put star free, because we are going to write in free format, okay. F11, okay. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to blindly copy paste, okay, because I'm going to save some time. Let me take this one. Okay, this is our procedure. This is our data structure, which is going to be used for the third parameter, and these two are our normal standalone variables, okay. And this is what we are going to write into the browser, okay. First thing is actually the content type, and then to crlf, and then we are invoking the procedure so that this particular data will be returned to the browser. After that we are writing our data, okay. So we can do n number of this, you can call the write to web or this particular procedure n number of time, but at the end when you actually return it from the program, right, or when the return is executing, automatically all the data will be sent into the browser. So now one point to notice is this particular thing is case sensitive. Please make sure you are giving in correct case, okay. So simply what I'm going to do, file and then compile. So it's compiled, okay. ws2. Now how do I call this ws2 from the web? So if you remember our pattern, right, so we said that rpgle / the program name. So this is our IP, okay. I'm just going to say / rpgle, okay, / ws2. So if you execute it, right, what is coming here? Hello world from RPG, okay, because that is what we are actually returning it from here, okay. Hello world from RPG. Now I said that this content type is having a crucial role, okay. This content type is the one which is describing what we are going to send, okay. Suppose if you want to return a XML, then it could be a text / XML. If you are going to return a JSON, it could be a text / JSON, okay. But how does it make a difference? That we are going to see now. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to change this plain into HTML, okay. I'm not changing much, only the content type I'm changing, okay. Now if I compile it again, execute, see, you are getting the content in the format of HTML. Why? Because the browser, when it got the detail at the first time, okay, it reads the data as a plain text, okay, because we sent the content type as text. But the next time we said it's a HTML, so now it is reading the data as a HTML. So now that's why it is showing the markup also. Fine. So this is and all basics of simply how can we call a our RPGLE program from the web. So how can we return the data from our RPGLE. But now the actual concept of this video is to create a post web service. Okay. Now in the world of web, there are four commonly used HTTP verbs. Okay, which they I could write get, put, post, delete. Okay, so get normally will be used for retrieving some data from the server. Okay, put will be used, or post will be used if you want to create a new record, okay, in the database via the server. And put will be used if you want to update any particular existing record, and delete will be used if you want to delete a particular record. Okay, so these four are commonly used HTTP verb. So like that, say for example, you need to write a program which is RPGLE program, which needs to get some data from the post web service or post endpoint or post method, and you need to capture the data, and then with the data you need to do something. You can write into the database, or you can do whatever you want. But in the standard, if you are creating a post web service, it is used to create a record in your server. Okay, now let's see how to do that. To be frank, whatever the program we already written, it will handle the post also. How? Because we just need to find whether this particular WS2 is called via get or post. How can we do that? So say for example, now I called it from the browser. So browser supports default get. Okay. Now I have this postman tool, which is actually a free tool to execute different kind of web service. You can invoke the web service. Now I am going to execute the same WS2 web service, but I'm going to change this to post. If I run it right, still you get the data, because the request is still reaching the same WS2 program and returning the result. But in the program, we are not doing any check for it's a get or post or anything. Okay. But what we are learning is, by just adding this script alias match, we are able to invoke both get and post, or even the other methods also. Okay. If you ask me how to control that, there are other ways in the HTTP config file. But today we are going to see how to control it from the program itself. Okay. Now let's see. What do we want? First, we want to know whether this request is called via get or post. Okay, we want to get that information in the RPGLE. So for that, we are going to use the next thing. Basically, there is a procedure again called get env. Okay, get environment variable. When the web service is invoked from the browser or from any HTTP client, right? So it will have its own environment variables that we can retrieve using this procedure. So there are list of predefined, what do I call predefined values which we can retrieve. Say for example, here I have given some request URI, content type, request method. Okay, these are some of the HTTP environment, not environment variables, HTTP headers. Now let's see how do we do that. Okay, let me explain this. First of all, this getEnv is a C-based procedure which is available in the system binding directory QC2LE. Okay, first we will add this thing to our program. Then we will declare this getEnv as the procedure in our program, and simply how we need to use it, because getEnv will accept one parameter, which is actually the data what we want from the environment variables, and then we need to convert that into a percentage string, and we can assign it to our variable. Why? Because percentage string, because it will return a pointer. Okay, so to convert that pointer, we are using a percentage string. So let's quickly add this one. I'm going to edit the same program. First we need to add the QC2LE. So here colon QC2LE. Okay, and then let me add this procedure. I will add it here. Okay, then I will, these are my local variables. Okay, standalone variables. Okay, let me delete these lines. I don't want. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to retrieve this data and then return all the data to the browser. Okay, save it. Okay, here I'm retrieving the data. To send it back, right, what I can do, okay, so here I say that data, which is my variable, equal to, say for example, URL. Okay, URL plus trim of URL. Okay, because it's my variable. Okay, then I'm going to say br. So br, because it's HTML, right, so we'll get it in the next line. Okay, plus, and I'm going to say request method plus trim of request method, then br, and then content type plus trim of content type. Okay, so what we are doing, basically we are formatting the data. Okay, URL is equal to the data coming from the URL, request method is equal to the request method coming from this variable, and so on. Okay, finally we need to return this to the web, right? So we'll call the write to web method. Okay, file. Okay, now it's compiled. Now the same post request, okay, I'm going to call it and just send it, but what the response what you are sending getting here is, go to preview. So URL, basically you are getting this RPGLE/ws2. Request method is post. Okay, content type is text.plain. So in the post, if you go to body, okay, you can give the payload, okay, in the post service, whatever the thing you want. So if you change it to maybe, application slash JSON, if you send, now you will get application slash JSON here as a content type. Okay, now you know that we are able to get the request method using this environment variable. But one point what I have noticed recently or yesterday is, if you invoke this method now from the browser, it will go to error. Okay, now if you execute this, right, see, it is not giving the response. That is because this content type, even it will go to message wait. Okay, so look at this. Okay, it's in message wait. So let me give a dump. Okay, why that is because the content type is actually available only for the post request, not for the get request. So for that thing, what I'm just going to do, let me put this here. So if the request method is equals to post, okay, then only I will retrieve the content type. So that makes sense. And okay, so if you compile again, if you go to browser, if you execute, now it will work. Okay, but just the fact that the content type variable will not have the data. Okay, that's one quick point. Now let's go to the further step. Okay, so now what we have observed, okay, we know how to retrieve whether it's a get request or post request, using the environment variable. Now with post request, the objective is to send the data. Okay, so if you say for example text or plain, I say I'm Muhammad Yusuf. Okay, to send, what has happened is this data is passed to the program. Okay, but we have not seen anywhere. Okay, so how do we retrieve this particular value which is coming in the post payload? That's the next thing we're going to do. Okay, for that, what we are going to do, we are going to use another API. Okay, this API is again already available in the our actual binding directory. Okay, yeah. So it is a very simple API, which means you will just call it with four parameters, and the first parameter will be your variable, which will contain the data if at all available, so that you can use it. Okay, so I'm not going to explain much here. We can just hard code these things also. We're going to call the API and pass four parameters, and the first parameter will get the data. Okay, now let us enhance our WS2 program. Come down. Okay, first we need to add one copy file where I can add here. Okay, because this copy file is actually having a default standard error description data structure. Okay, so you can see we are using that you are using that here in API error. The API error is actually actually the fourth parameter for the procedure. Okay, cool. So now let's take this one, copy. Let me see, paste it, and then let me take this. These are my variables actually to pass it to the procedure to get the output. Okay, so RP file. Okay, done. Now I'm gonna call this one. So since I know this payload will be happening only in post request, right? What I'm going to do inside the post, I'm gonna execute that thing, and after this, I will get the data in the return buffer. So here, what I'm going to do, data is equals to data colon plus trim of this particular variable. Okay, I'm just going to return the data also in the browser to see whether we are reading it or not. Now I need to execute the write to web again. Okay, and that's it. That's file. It's compiled. So again, if you go to get request, if we execute it again, you just get our the data which is blank. But if you go to post request, I'm executing same thing again. Now you see you get the data as Muhammad Yusuf, which is coming here. Okay, if you give whatever you want, you will get it. Okay, so now what we have learned, we can write the same RPGLE program which is used for get request, and using the same program we can also pass the payload via post request. Now we learned how can we read that also in the using the API standard input, but we have another pain point here. Let me tell you. Okay, so assume I want to pass a JSON, okay, which is a very common scenario in a web protocol. Okay, so I'm passing a simple JSON, name is equals to Yusuf. Okay, so please note that I have given the type as plain text. If I send it, you will get the data. Okay, which is cool, no problem. But the ideal world, they will be using content type of application slash JSON. Okay, when they are sending the JSON data. But if you try to send this one, right, what happens is actually you are getting a junk data. Okay, so there is a CCAD conversion which is happening while you are receiving the data from the web in the post in terms of application slash JSON content type. So how do we solve this is going to be our next video. Okay, my primary objective is to talk about this, but this video, the first video, took a long time. So anyway, because I wanted to cover things from basics, but now you will be having a base idea how things work and what is the pain point we have with respect to post request. So in our next video, we'll start from here. We'll finish how can we get the application slash JSON data in a readable format in our program. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope this is kind of interesting for you, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye bye.